The Giver by Lois Lowry, Decoding Dystopia. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, and this is Decoding Dystopia, Literature as Prophecy, a series where we unearth how seemingly innocent fiction encodes the blueprints of social control. Today we begin a four-part breakdown of The Giver by Lois Lowry, a novel often assigned to middle schoolers but rarely understood for what it really is: a chilling model of engineered docility, emotional flattening, controlled reproduction, and state-sanctioned euthanasia, all justified in the name of peace. Published in 1993, The Giver presents a community without war, pain, hunger, or conflict. On the surface, it's utopia. But from the very first pages, we are shown that this peace comes at a price: the elimination of individuality, history, and feeling. Citizens live in assigned family units. Children are not born to parents biologically, but assigned by the state. Careers are selected based on aptitude tests. Language is heavily policed. Emotions are suppressed through daily medication. And most critically, memory, cultural, historical, personal memory, is stripped from the population and held by a single person, the receiver of memory. This is the novel's central concept. Depth is dangerous. Remembering the past means remembering war, grief, joy, love, and pain. These experiences are considered too destabilizing for a peaceful society. So instead of risking emotional volatility, the elders, the ruling body, outsource all memory to one individual who bears it alone. Everyone else is shielded from the burden of feeling. This isn't compassion, it's control. And it mirrors the trajectory of real-world systems emerging today. Modern society is drifting towards similar emotional sterilization, albeit through digital rather than pharmaceutical means. Algorithmic content moderation removes posts that are too emotionally intense. AI-generated mental health tools encourage calmness at all costs. Emotion recognition software in classrooms, cars, and workplaces is already being piloted to assess facial expressions and flag non-compliant states. This is not therapy, it's emotional surveillance. It rewards flatness and penalizes depth. Just like in The Giver, emotional extremes are viewed as threats to stability. The protagonist, Jonas, is selected to become the next receiver of memory. This role is presented as an honor, but it quickly becomes clear that it is actually a form of isolation. He is told that he cannot share what he learns. He cannot request release. He must bear the weight of history alone. This system protects the masses by sacrificing the few. The community believes it is moral because it avoids pain, but it does so by ensuring that only one person feels it, in secret. This is not unlike the function of digital data ethics today, where decisions are made by isolated committees or invisible algorithms outside public view for the common good. As Jonas begins to receive memories, transmitted through touch from the aging giver, he discovers feelings he has never known: real joy, sorrow, longing, color, snow. His world has been monochrome, not only visually, but emotionally. The more he learns, the more he realizes what has been taken. The society hasn't just suppressed pain, it has erased experience itself. There is no genuine love, no grief, no passion, no curiosity. These have been sacrificed on the altar of stability. This dynamic parallels modern trends in which social media platforms, HR protocols, and school guidelines encourage sanitized communication. The aim is always to reduce offense, eliminate risk, and maintain harmony. But in doing so, these systems flatten human expression. Passion is pathologized, intensity is policed, discomfort is categorized as harm. This is not emotional intelligence, it is emotional editing. In Lowry's world, family units are not formed through love or biology, but through application and assignment. A man and a woman are matched by the state. They are given one boy and one girl to raise. Children are not born from their bodies, but are delivered by professional birth mothers, who have no role in the child's life. Love is not expected, nor is it allowed to flourish. The word itself is considered imprecise and is replaced by terms like enjoy or appreciate. This is not a quirk of the fictional society. It is a strategic dismantling of emotional bonds. If people do not form real attachments, they are easier to govern. We see similar strategies in today's push toward artificial companionship and commodified caregiving. From AI relationships to state-run childcare and end-of-life facilities, the trend is clear. Personal responsibility for care is being replaced by institutional frameworks. Emotion is being outsourced. Affection is being abstracted. Love is being redesigned as service, measurable, managed, and replaceable. This mirrors The Giver precisely. In both worlds, connection is regulated, not to promote intimacy, but to prevent disruption. One of the most haunting elements in The Giver is the concept of release. Citizens who do not fit in, infants who fail to thrive, elders who reach a certain age, and rule breakers who resist conformity are quietly euthanized. But the society does not call it death. They call it release. This linguistic reframing is critical. It allows the population to accept and participate in killing without guilt. Even the people who carry out the procedures don't realize what they are doing. They believe it is peaceful, humane, necessary. This is an explicit warning about the power of sanitized language to mask violence. In modern bioethics, we already see language bending to justify policies that would have been unthinkable a generation ago. Expanding euthanasia laws are framed as medical aid in dying. Genetic screening for undesirable traits is framed as preventative care. Selective abortion of disabled children is framed as compassionate choice. These terms sound gentle, but they obscure the implications. When language is engineered to soften reality, the capacity for moral resistance is eroded. Jonas's transformation begins when he receives his first truly painful memory: war. It devastates him, but it also awakens him. For the first time, he understands what the community has given up and what it means to feel fully. Pain and pleasure are inseparable. To eliminate one is to eliminate both. This is Lowry's central message, that true life requires risk, depth, and memory. Without these, you may avoid suffering, but you also forfeit meaning. In modern neurotechnology, the promise of pain suppression is becoming reality. Devices and drugs are being developed to blunt trauma responses, erase targeted memories, and stabilize mood with digital implants. While this has legitimate medical applications, the broader philosophical question remains: who decides what should be forgotten? In The Giver, it's the elders. In our world, it may soon be algorithms. The common goal? Comfort. But comfort without truth is not peace. It is sedation. As Jonas continues his training with The Giver, he becomes increasingly aware that his community has not eliminated suffering. It has outsourced it. By concentrating all memory in one person, the society has created a moral scapegoat. The receiver carries all the collective knowledge, grief, and joy that once belonged to everyone. This structure may appear benevolent, but it reveals a dangerous logic: that truth is too heavy for the masses. The implication is clear. If people are not allowed to feel deeply, they are easier to manage. This echoes the modern architecture of information silos. Today, truth is often curated by credentialed experts, AI gatekeepers, and policy panels that decide what the public should and should not know. In media, headlines are softened. In education, curricula are streamlined. In digital platforms, controversial views are downranked or erased. All of this is justified in the name of mental health, safety, and social harmony. But what it produces is not knowledge. It's consensual ignorance, maintained by systemic avoidance of discomfort. Lowry illustrates that without memory, ethics collapses. In the absence of shared history, people cannot learn from the past. They simply follow the rules. Jonas's parents, who are kind and dutiful citizens, don't understand that release means death. They perform their roles with calm efficiency, having no access to the emotional or historical context that would allow them to object. This reveals the second function of memory in the novel, not just as an archive of facts, but as the foundation of moral reasoning. This has direct implications today. As societies increasingly digitize their records, outsource knowledge to AI, and abandon traditional narratives, the cultural fabric weakens. Memory becomes external, stored on devices, curated by search engines, filtered by algorithms. The past is no longer something we carry, it's something we query. And those queries are shaped by invisible hands. If memory becomes digital, and digital systems are governed by power and profit, then truth is no longer a discovery. It is a product. This erosion of memory is not limited to history. It extends to personal experience. In The Giver, children are trained to suppress emotions through daily medication. This is not framed as punishment, but as routine health maintenance. The goal is to eliminate extremes, both joy and sorrow. Jonas, once removed from the medication, begins to feel fully for the first time. His reaction is not ecstasy, it's disorientation. Real emotion is overwhelming. This mirrors today's increasing reliance on mood regulators and emotion-managing apps, which promise calm, but often deliver emotional disconnection. Modern society is not yet mandating emotional sedation, but it is normalizing it. Children are increasingly diagnosed and medicated for emotional dysregulation, a term that can include everything from sadness to anger to curiosity. The desire for behavioral predictability is displacing the value of emotional complexity. This trend is even more dangerous when paired with emotion-sensing AI, which evaluates users' tone, posture, or facial expressions to determine compliance. Like in The Giver, the goal is not to overstand emotion, it's to neutralize it. The role of the elders in the novel is crucial. They are not evil. They are orderly, rational, and deeply committed to their vision of peace. But they function as a technocratic priesthood, making decisions from above, unaccountable to the people they govern. This is not a democracy. It is a managed society, where compliance is achieved through social design, not brute force. Rules are never questioned because the people no longer have the emotional range to object. This is not tyranny in the classical sense. It is benevolent bureaucracy, backed by behavioral science. This model closely resembles modern trends in behavioral governance. From nudging policies to social credit scoring, we are increasingly governed not by laws, but by psychological incentives. Digital platforms reward certain behaviors, penalize others, and shape choice architectures to guide population outcomes. The public is rarely aware of the mechanisms. Like the citizens in The Giver, they believe they are free, while every meaningful decision is pre-filtered. This is not fictional paranoia. It is the logic of modern data-driven governance. One of the most disturbing scenes in The Giver is when Jonas watches a recording of his father releasing an infant twin. The father is calm, gentle, and smiling, right before administering a lethal injection to the child. He believes he is sending the baby to a better place. He believes he is doing good. This is Lowry's sharpest critique, that systems of moral inversion depend on sincerity. When killing is called care and obedience is called compassion, the result is not resistance, it's participation. Modern policies on end-of-life care are increasingly reflecting this dynamic. In several countries, euthanasia laws now extend beyond terminal illness to include psychological distress, aging, or perceived loss of meaning. What begins as a right becomes an option, and what begins as an option quickly becomes a recommendation. When cost-saving, convenience, and compassion converge, the danger is clear. Death becomes a service. Just like in The Giver, the ethical horror is softened by procedure. Another tool of control in the novel is the rigid assignment of roles. At age 12, every child is given a career that they will pursue for life. There is no exploration, no deviation, no second chances. The choice is made by a committee based on observed aptitude and social fit. This may seem absurd, but it reflects today's emerging models of predictive profiling. From education algorithms to job-matching platforms, we are rapidly developing systems that assign roles based on early data. This predictive sorting is often framed as opportunity optimization, but in practice, it limits mobility and flattens individuality. When people are reduced to data points, their future becomes a projection, not a possibility. Like in The Giver, the rhetoric is one of harmony. The result is a society where very few people ever discover who they are outside of the role they've been given. Language, too, is tightly controlled. Citizens are taught to use precise language and to apologize in specific scripted ways. Feelings are reported in group settings and corrected if deemed inaccurate. The goal is to eliminate ambiguity. But what is really being removed is metaphor, passion, and nuance. Words are pruned of complexity. This linguistic flattening is essential to social control. If you cannot speak your truth, you cannot name your pain. If you cannot name your pain, you cannot resist. Modern parallels are abundant. Social media moderation policies increasingly flag content based on emotional tone. Speech codes in workplaces and schools encourage neutral language over authentic expression. AI writing tools suggest friendlier alternatives to direct speech. Over time, we are teaching ourselves to speak like systems, efficiently, cautiously, and without depth. Jonas's realization that love is a forbidden word is not a throwaway moment. It's a thesis statement. Love cannot be allowed in a society built on predictability, because love is irrational. It creates preference. It provokes risk. It invites grief. And most importantly, it produces loyalty that cannot be transferred to the state. In Lowry's world, love is dangerous because it makes people remember what matters. As Jonas absorbs more of the collective memory, he begins to overstand that choice. Real, meaningful choice cannot exist in a world without risk. The people of his community are obedient not because they are evil, but because they are protected from context. They do not know hunger, so they cannot appreciate nourishment. They do not know war, so they cannot value peace. They do not know love, so they cannot grieve. The result is a population that functions smoothly, but lives shallowly. This is not safety. It is the death of depth by design. This philosophical insight is echoed in today's obsession with algorithmic optimization. The average user's digital life is curated by AI. What to watch, who to date, where to travel, what to believe. Risk is engineered out of the equation, but the cost of constant optimization is stagnation. If we never experience difficulty, we never discover our capacity. If we're always told what we want before we can want it, we lose the chance to become. Jonas's growing disillusionment is also social. He realizes he cannot share what he's learning. His family cannot understand him. His friends are still taking their daily emotional suppressants. The Giver is the only person who can relate to his experience, and even he is weary, broken by decades of isolation. This exposes one of the novel's core psychological insights, that without shared memory, there can be no shared meaning. You cannot build community on amnesia. This theme is relevant in a world where interpersonal depth is increasingly sacrificed for digital convenience. Social bonding is now often algorithmically sorted, gamified, or interrupted. We text instead of talk. We scroll instead of reflect. We curate instead of connect. And with each passing year, we forget how to feel in real time, with real people. Like Jonas, many are discovering that emotional awakening is a lonely road in a numbed society. At the structural level, the community in The Giver is a triumph of behavioral conditioning. Every citizen follows rules not because they're enforced violently, but because they've been internalized. Apologies are formulaic. Discomfort is pathologized. Disruption is gently corrected. This is social control through consensus, not coercion. And it's powerful because it feels polite. Modern governance is increasingly following this model. Social contracts are rewritten through peer pressure, platform policies, and psychological nudging. The new regime doesn't demand compliance. It designs environments where dissent feels awkward. Consider the rise of cancel culture, not as moral hysteria, but as a distributed enforcement mechanism. No central authority is needed. The culture polices itself through shame, silence, and algorithmic exclusion. Jonas's rebellion is not loud. It begins as a question. Why don't we have choices? Why can't I decide who to love, what to feel, what to remember? These questions, in a society built on compliance, are revolutionary. And this is one of Lowry's most radical claims, that memory is rebellion. To remember is to recognize loss. And to recognize loss is to challenge the structures that created it. Today, we see this resistance in efforts to reclaim erased history, unfiltered emotion, and analog experience. People are returning to physical books, real conversations, and off-grid living not out of nostalgia, but out of survival. In a world flooded with simulation, the hunger for something uneditable grows. This is Jonas's journey, not toward escape, but toward integrity. The receiver of memory is a figure of tragic necessity. He exists to absorb what the society cannot bear, but the role is inherently unstable. One person cannot carry the emotional weight of an entire civilization. This raises the question, what happens when the burden becomes too great? In The Giver, we're told of a previous receiver, Rosemary, who requested release after absorbing painful memories. Her death was not public, but it caused shockwaves. The memories she held were inadvertently released into the population, and people experienced grief for the first time. This event proves that memory cannot be contained forever. Like trauma, it finds a way out. And when it does, it reshapes everything. Lowry's message is clear. The suppression of truth may work temporarily, but it is never sustainable. Eventually, what was buried will surface, through dreams, through breakdowns, or through a new generation that refuses to forget. Jonas's decision to flee the community is not just a personal escape. It's a political act. He knows that if he dies outside the boundaries, his memories will be released into the society. He becomes the rupture point. This is an extraordinary metaphor for whistleblowing, civil disobedience, and psychological awakening. One person, stepping outside, can reprogram the system. This mirrors real-world phenomena where individuals who exit the dominant narrative, through exposure, resistance, or exile, become catalysts for systemic change. The person who remembers what others have forgotten becomes dangerous. Whether it's a dissident in a surveillance state, a trauma survivor in a gaslighting culture, or a child who refuses to be medicated into numbness, the rebel is the one who remembers. Lowry doesn't offer a blueprint for how to rebuild society after such rupture. The novel ends ambiguously. Jonas escapes. The community is left to absorb the memories. Whether they collapse or awaken is unknown. This ambiguity is powerful. It reminds us that the restoration of depth is not predictable. When a society begins to feel again, the results are not always harmonious. Reintegrating memory means reintegrating conflict. Pain will return, but so will meaning. One of the most relevant applications of this story today is in how we design future educational systems. In Jonas's world, learning is functional. There is no art, no history, no philosophy. Information is transmitted on a need-to-know basis. Creativity is discouraged. This prepares citizens to fit roles, not to challenge them. The same logic is appearing today in data-driven education models that prioritize test scores, job readiness, and behavior tracking over imagination, discussion, and introspection. In both cases, the message is the same. Depth is dangerous. Emotional range is inefficient. Independent thought is risky. But Lowry makes the counterpoint unforgettable. Without these things, we are not safe. We are numb. And in that numbness, we lose the very thing that makes us human. Not the ability to function, but the ability to care. In the final chapters of The Giver, Jonas chooses not just to leave the community, but to carry its repressed memory back to the people through his absence. This decision is radical because it reintroduces danger, unpredictability, and grief into a culture that has functioned by avoiding all three. In doing so, Jonas doesn't just escape. He activates remembrance. His exit is a rupture point. The boundaries of comfort are breached, and what was hidden begins to surface. This is Lowry's ultimate prophecy, that no system can erase the human soul entirely. Depth may be buried, but it is not dead. This is a critical message for the modern era of data-driven predictability. We are increasingly surrounded by systems that manage emotion, automate connection, and streamline experience. From algorithmically curated news feeds to biometric nudges that prompt us to hydrate or smile, the architecture of behavior is being designed for frictionless flow. But friction has purpose, so does sadness, so does conflict. Without them, we become programmable shells, efficient, compliant, and disconnected from meaning. In The Giver, the release of elders and non-conforming infants is not framed as murder. It's framed as mercy. The people genuinely believe they are doing good. This is what makes the society sustainable. The lie is not forced, it is believed. And belief is more powerful than force. Today, the same principle applies. The most effective systems of control are those that dress themselves in benevolence. For your safety, for your comfort, for your future. When compliance is framed as kindness, resistance is framed as selfishness. This narrative plays out in modern healthcare policy, especially around end-of-life care and assisted dying. Legal frameworks often begin with a compassionate intent: reduce suffering, preserve dignity. But the slope is rarely static. In countries with legal euthanasia, the conditions have expanded rapidly, from terminal illness to chronic pain to mental health to general aging. The more society views life as a burden, the easier it becomes to see death as a relief. And like in The Giver, the process is medicalized, softened, and culturally embraced. Death is not grieved, it is scheduled. Jonas's society also controls sexuality through suppression. Teenagers are given medications to stop stirrings, a sanitized term for sexual desire. Love and lust are considered destabilizing. Pleasure is pathologized. This element of the novel is subtle but critical. When desire is neutralized, attachment weakens. And when attachment weakens, social cohesion becomes institutional rather than emotional. You don't care for others, you follow rules for them. The result is a society that behaves well but bonds poorly. This strategy is increasingly reflected in digital age approaches to intimacy. Pornography, hookup apps, and algorithmic dating platforms have commodified desire into quick, detached transactions. At the same time, cultural shifts discourage deep romantic attachment, framing it as codependency or distraction. The combined effect is eerily similar to Jonas's community. Desire is redirected, love is avoided, and reproduction is abstracted. The future isn't passionless by accident. It's being engineered that way. Lowry's depiction of family is equally dystopian in its formality. A family unit consists of a mother, a father, one boy, and one girl. No more, no less. The roles are assigned, and the bonds are functional, not emotional. There is no natural parenthood, no spontaneous affection, no true intimacy. This is not just an attack on freedom. It is a redefinition of kinship. Love is rebranded as obligation. Parenthood becomes guardianship. Childhood becomes programming. Modern parallels are easy to spot. Reproductive technologies now allow the creation of children without sexual reproduction, via IVF, donor embryos, surrogacy, and soon, artificial wombs. State-run childcare and institutional education begin earlier and last longer. In some countries, parents can lose custody for refusing state-mandated treatments. The idea that children belong to families, not systems, is being replaced. Just like in The Giver, the new ideal is assigned identity, not inherited connection. As Jonas flees the community with the infant Gabriel, he embodies the ultimate risk, trading safety for truth. He doesn't know what lies beyond the boundary. He doesn't know if they'll survive. But he knows that life without memory, without love, and without choice is not worth preserving. His journey is not heroic in the traditional sense. It is sacrificial. He takes the pain so that others might feel again. This is not a metaphor. It is a call to those who carry consciousness in unconscious systems, to protect the sacred, even when others have forgotten why it matters. The ambiguity of the ending is intentional. Jonas and Gabriel escape, but their fate is unclear. Do they die? Do they reach another community? Does the memory truly return to the people? Lowry leaves us with questions, not answers. Because the real question isn't about Jonas. It's about us. What do we do with the memory once we have it? Do we bury it again? Or do we build a society that can hold it honestly? This is the challenge of the post-digital age. We've gained access to more information than ever before, but lost the capacity to feel it fully. We scroll past war, swipe through grief, and stream sanitized tragedy. We see everything and absorb nothing. This is the emotional architecture of The Giver. Memory without meaning, exposure without empathy, and interaction without intimacy. But Lowry offers a quiet resistance. To remember is to awaken. To feel fully, even when it hurts, is to reclaim the human condition. In a world that wants your compliance, your sedation, and your forgetfulness, choosing to remember is the first act of rebellion. So what does The Giver teach us? That utopia without depth is dystopia. That peace built on sedation is not peace, it's paralysis. That systems which remove choice in the name of harmony will eventually remove humanity in the name of order. That emotion, real, raw, unpredictable emotion, is not the enemy of civilization. It is the proof that we are still alive inside it. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11x published author, and what you just watched was only a taste of what's inside the Truth series, where we go all the way down the rabbit hole. If you're the kind of person who's always asking bigger questions, who knows there's more to this world than what we've been told, then this is your invitation to the series that was built for you. Inside the Truth series, you'll get full access to 6 mind-blowing sub-series designed to wake up your highest intelligence and decode the matrix we live in. 1. Locate the truth. Learn how to actually research, not just what to search, but how to verify, cross-reference, read declassified files, and protect your own mind from weaponized misinformation. This is truth-seeking, decoded. 2. The Mandela effect. Are we shifting timelines? Why do so many people remember a different past? We break down the most bizarre, undeniable examples of reality glitches and what they tell us about consciousness and control. 3. Law is magic. Law is not what you think it is. From word spells to maritime law and hidden contracts, we uncover how legal systems use language like a wand, and how to stop being tricked by fine print that binds you without consent. 4. Entertainment or ritual. The Hollywood and music industries are not just for entertainment. From Super Bowl rituals to Grammy stage symbolism, we decode what's really being shown, who it serves, and why mass consciousness is the target. 5. Decoding dystopia. Ever wondered why dystopian fiction feels prophetic? In this subseries, we decode popular films and books, Hunger Games, 1984, Black Mirror, to reveal the hidden blueprints and predictive programming behind the plot. 6. MK Ultra plus mind control programs. This one gets deep. From real MK Ultra documents to modern symbolism in media, we expose how mind control operates in plain sight and how to free yourself from manipulation you didn't even know was happening. And that's just the beginning. If this resonated with you, click the links below and join us inside the Full Truth series, because the more you know, the harder you are to control. This is your awakening. We don't just ask questions, we find answers. Let's go all the way down the rabbit hole together.